I'm AnewZ and you're watching AnewZ. Here are the headlines. At least 10 dead in a car ramming attack during New Year celebrations in New Orleans. Russia launches 111 drones on Ukraine on New Year's Eve. Victims and damages reported. The world greets the new year, from grand fireworks to quiet moments of reflection. Thank you for tuning in. At least 10 people have been killed and 30 injured when a driver rammed a pickup truck into a crowd during New Year celebrations on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. The suspect in the attack in the French Quarter is dead.
In the incident in New Orleans, which left at least 10 dead and 30 injured, a truck drove into a crowd on Canal and Bourbon Street, known worldwide as one of the largest destinations for New Year's Eve parties. Police said the attack was intentional, with the driver targeting pedestrians. During the firefight with the suspect, 2 officers were also shot. The city mayor said that she has been in direct contact with the White House and urged people to stay clear of the area. The FBI is investigating an incident as an act of terrorism. The investigation is ongoing.
This event started at about 3:15. It did involve a man driving a pickup truck down Bourbon Street at a very fast pace, and it was very intentional behavior. This man was trying to run over as many people as he possibly could.
New Orleans has experienced shootings and cars colliding with crowds in the past. In November 2024, 2 people were killed and 10 injured in 2 separate shootings along a New Orleans parade route and celebration attended by thousands, local media reported. In February 2017, a man who police said appeared to be highly intoxicated plowed a pickup truck into a crowd of spectators watching the main Mardi Gras parade in New Orleans, injuring more than 20 people.
Russia launched a drone strike on Kyiv on New Year's Eve, killing 2 and injuring at least 7 people. The attack damaged buildings in 2 districts, including a residential building where 2 floors were partially destroyed. Ukraine's air defenses shot down 63 out of 111 drones launched overnight, with another 46 intercepted by electronic jamming. Kyiv's mayor Vitaly Klitschko said debris from downed drones also hit a non-residential building. Ukraine's president Volodymyr Zelensky reacted to the strikes, saying that even on New Year's Eve, Russia was only concerned with how to hurt Ukraine. As the world entered 2025, the leaders of Russia and Ukraine shared their thoughts on the year ahead, shaped by the ongoing conflict. Both Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky addressed their nations, with their speeches showing the stark contrast of their visions for the future and the war.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin addressed their nations in separate New Year messages, reflecting the stark realities of the ongoing war and their respective visions for the year ahead. In a 21-minute video, Zelensky emphasized that peace for Ukraine would not come as a gift, but must be fought for. Speaking against a backdrop of Ukraine's blue and yellow flag, battlefield scenes and images of children, he called for national resilience in the face of Russia's 34-month invasion. Zelensky expressed confidence in U.S. support, referencing conversations with both outgoing President Joe Biden and incoming President-elect Donald Trump.
Я не маю сумніву, що новий американський президент хоче.
I have no doubt that the new American president wants and will be able to bring peace and end Putin's aggression. He understands that the former is impossible without the latter, because this is not a street brawl where the 2 sides need to be pacified. This is a full-scale aggression by a deranged state against a civilized one. And I believe that, together with the United States, we are capable of the strength to force Russia into a just peace.
Meanwhile, Putin delivered a brief 3.5-minute address from the Kremlin, aired across Russia's 11 time zones, acknowledging economic challenges like rising prices and high interest rates. He assured Russians that their well-being remained his top priority.
Да, нам предстоит еще многое решить.
Yes, we still have a lot to do, but we can be rightly proud of what has already been done. This is our common heritage, a solid foundation for further development. Our country, independent, free and strong, has been able to respond to the most difficult challenges. And now, on the threshold of the new year, we are thinking about the future. We are sure that everything will be fine. We will go only forward. We know for sure that the absolute value for us was, is and will be the fate of Russia and the well-being of its citizens.
Marking 25 years since his first New Year address, Putin paid tribute to Russian soldiers fighting in Ukraine, calling them heroes and praising their bravery. However, he avoided any detailed mention of the battlefield situation, the potential impact of Trump's upcoming presidency on the conflict.
Russian gas supplies to European Union countries via Ukraine have ended after a 5-year deal between Ukraine's gas transit operator Naftogaz and Russia's Gazprom expired. Kyiv earlier said the deal would not be extended.
Russian gas supplies to Europe via Ukraine ended as a 5-year transit deal between Russian Gazprom and Ukraine's Naftogaz expired. Kyiv has refused to negotiate a new transit deal, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky saying earlier that the deal would not be extended, giving the EU a year to prepare. The European Commission said the continent had sufficient capacity to cope with the end of transit via Ukraine. Moldova, which is not part of the EU, could be seriously affected as the gas fueled a power plant on which the country relies for most of its electricity needs. It also supplied the Russia-backed breakaway region of Transnistria. The Soviet-era pipeline via Ukraine brought gas from Siberia via the town of Sudzha, now under the control of Ukrainian soldiers, in Russia's Kursk region. It then flowed through Ukraine to Slovakia, where the pipeline splits into branches going to Czechia and Austria. Ukraine is giving up some $800 million a year in fees from Russia, while Gazprom will lose close to $5 billion in gas sales to Europe via Ukraine. Russia can still send gas to Europe through the Turk Stream pipeline across the Black Sea, while most other gas routes to the continent are shut, including Yamal Europe via Belarus and Nord Stream under the Baltic that was blown up in 2022. The EU has significantly reduced imports of Russian gas since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022.
People around the world greeted the new year with unique traditions and celebrations. From grand fireworks to quiet moments of reflection, each country welcomed the new year in its own way.
3, 2, 1, here we go!
As 2025 began, countries around the world marked the occasion with unique celebrations, reflecting their cultures, traditions and hopes for the future. New Zealanders were amongst the first in the world to celebrate the arrival of the new year. They welcomed the new year with a visually stunning display in Auckland. The 5-minute spectacle involved over 500 kilograms of pyrotechnics launched from various sites. In Thailand, the new year was ushered in with an eco-friendly fireworks display made from sticky rice, stretching 1,400 meters. The colorful 6-act show featuring pastel and gold hues honored the country's heritage under the theme celebrating the everlasting legacy of Siam. Qatar celebrated in Lusail with a unique drone and firework display spelling out 2025. The country's festivities drew crowds, many capturing the moment as drones lit up the sky alongside the pyrotechnic show, symbolizing the transition into the new year. Greece's ancient Parthenon temple on the Acropolis had a quiet new year with a limited fireworks and a small drone display. The mayor of Athens initiated these quieter celebrations to minimize the distress caused to pets and animals by loud fireworks. In Kenya, traditional celebrations took place in Ruiru, where locals gathered to share roasted goat meat or nyama choma, a beloved dish deeply embedded in Kenyan culture. In the capital, Nairobi, church services provided a quieter way to ring in the new year with songs and prayers for peace and prosperity. Serious New Year celebrations took place in Damascus, where fireworks lit up the night sky amidst the backdrop of significant political changes. Meanwhile, in Russia, Moscow's celebrations was marked by a hope for peace and prosperity, even without fireworks. Many in crowd expressed cautious optimism for the future. In Ukraine, the situation remained somber as a curfew restricted celebrations in Maidan Square due to the ongoing war with Russia. A magnificent festive fireworks display was also held at the Seaside National Park in Baku. Besides the New Year holiday, on December 31st, Azerbaijani people also celebrate World Azerbaijani Solidarity Day. Baku residents who gathered at the Seaside Park and the central streets of the capital observed the celebration sceneries with a great joy.
Serbian students marked the arrival of the new year with 15 minutes of silence to honor the 15 victims of a deadly train station roof collapse in November. Gathered at Belgrade, Novi Sad and other cities, thousands of students called for justice and political reform in response to the tragedy.
Serbian students ushered in the new year with a silent protest to honour the 15 victims of a deadly train station collapse in November last year. At midnight in Belgrade, students stood in silence for 15 minutes, commemorating the lives lost when a concrete awning collapsed at the city's central train station on November 1st, killing 14 and injuring 3, one of whom later died from their injuries. The tragedy, blamed on government corruption and poor construction practices, has sparked widespread protests. Students, opposition groups and the public have repeatedly taken to the streets demanding justice and political reforms, accusing the government of mismanagement. The government denies these allegations. Instead of celebrating New Year's Eve, tens of thousands of protesters, led by students, gathered in Belgrade and other cities, continuing their call for accountability. The movement has gained broad support, including from professors, farmers and actors, reflecting deepening dissatisfaction with President Aleksandar Vucic's leadership. Despite the festive season, protests continue to demand justice for the victims and government accountability for the collapse.
Over in South Korea, a large crowd gathered near the presidential residence to show support for President Yoon Suk-yeol, who was impeached following his attempt to impose martial law on December 3rd. Supporters also rallied the day before, protesting a court-issued arrest warrant for Yoon, with placards bearing slogans such as "Rigged Election" and "Stop the Steal." Nearby, members of the Jimbo Party, a fringe opposition group, held a counter-rally against the impeached president. Adding to the political turmoil, several of Yoon's senior aides, including his chief of staff, policy chief, national security advisor, and special advisor, submitted their resignations, according to a statement from his office. Still in South Korea, officials have formally identified all 179 victims of the Jeju airplane crash. As the investigation into the cause of the disaster continues, the country's transport ministry said it will send the flight data recorder to the United States for further examination.
South Korea's acting president Choi Sang-mok confirmed that all victims of the Jeju air flight 2216 crash had been identified and their bodies returned to families for funeral services.
Identification of all 179 victims were completed overnight. The bodies of victims were transferred to their family members, and funeral services have started after the bodies arrived at funeral halls.
The disaster on Sunday claimed 179 lives, making it one of South Korea's deadliest aviation accidents. The Boeing, en route from Thailand, crashed while landing at Muan International Airport, skidding off the runway, hitting a concrete embankment and exploding. Authorities, including experts from the US National Transportation Safety Board and Boeing, are investigating the cause, with potential factors like a disabled control system or bird strikes.
Currently, South Korea's investigators, along with the US National Transportation Safety Board and manufacturer, are conducting a joint investigation of the cause of the accident. The cause of the accident will be revealed by comprehensively analysing and reviewing detailed investigations of the aircraft, fuselage, and black box.
In response, the South Korean government has pledged a full safety review of its airports and airline fleet. Inspections of all Boeing 737-800s are underway, and the Transport Ministry will reassess airport regulations to ensure international compliance.
The investigation into the Azerbaijan Airlines plane crash near Aktau, Kazakhstan is moving forward. Kazakh government's commission says preliminary findings will be released within 30 days. Kazakhstan's deputy transport minister confirmed that investigators are gathering evidence from the crash site and analyzing materials at the Aktau airport. The flight recorders have been sent to Brazil for examination. The Embraer 190 aircraft crashed on December 25th en route from Baku to Grozny, killing 38 of the 67 people on board. Azerbaijan has called for a transparent international inquiry. Initial findings suggest the plane was attacked by a Russian air defense system while approaching Grozny. Ivory Coast has announced that French troops will withdraw from the West African nation, further reducing the military influence of the former colonial power in the region. Ivory Coast's President Alassane Ouattara said the move was a reflection of the modernization of the country's armed forces. Separately, Senegal confirmed the withdrawal of French troops from the country would be completed by the end of 2025. Ivory Coast is home to the biggest remaining contingent of French troops in West Africa, with some 600 French military personnel. France has already pulled its soldiers out of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger, while the government of Chad abruptly ended its defense pact with France in November. 72-year-old Gisèle Pellicot, the victim of a long-term mass rape organized by her husband, has been chosen as the Person of the Year, according to a survey in France. In the results of the survey, the Odoxa Research Institute notes that the personality of Gisèle Pellicot, her dignity, as well as the horror of what she had to go through, moved the French people. Pellicot got 38% of the vote, coming ahead of US President-elect Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. French President Emmanuel Macron got 14% of the vote. During his New Year speech, French President Emmanuel Macron offered apologies and recognized that his decision to call early parliamentary elections in June had created more political instability in the country, in a rare moment of contrition. The speech caps a tumultuous 2024 for Macron, who shocked the nation halfway through the year by calling snap elections a gamble that backfired when voters delivered a hung parliament with a big increase in the number of far-right lawmakers, diluting Macron's power. The dissolution caused more divisions in the assembly than solutions for the French people, Macron said in a televised address, in the clearest mea culpa moment since the elections. A massive blackout struck Puerto Rico on New Year's Eve, leaving much of the island without power. While essential services were restored, residents face uncertainty as efforts to bring electricity back to all affected areas continue.
Puerto Rico experienced a massive power outage on December 31st, leaving nearly the entire island without electricity. The blackout began early Tuesday morning, affecting most of the island. By 9 p.m., power had been restored to critical facilities like hospitals, but over half of the island remained without electricity. Luma Energy, the private company overseeing power distribution, indicated that it could take up to 48 hours to fully restore service. As residents scrambled to prepare for the possibility of extended outages, many rushed to gas stations to fuel up generators.
We've been without electric power since 5:30 this morning, so we're stocking up here so we can turn on the generator to sort things out for tonight.
Well, according to what I've heard, it's going to take a while to get all the power back up, so we are going to prepare so we're not caught off guard for 2 or 3 days.
The outage is believed to have been caused by a failure in an underground line operated by LUMA, which knocked out power plants and disrupted private generators. Spokesperson Ivan Baez explained that the failed line took down both public and private power sources. In response, Governor Pedro Pierluisi urged Luma and Genera to expedite the restoration process, posting on social media platform X. This power failure highlights ongoing concerns over Puerto Rico's aging electrical grid, which has struggled with chronic outages for years.
Starting from the first day of the year, residents from Bulgaria and Romania can travel freely in the Schengen area. The combined 25 million residents of the two countries now join nearly 450 million EU citizens, who already have the freedom to move around the Schengen zone after land border checks were officially lifted. Drivers and passengers no longer need to show any identity documents, and cars may pass without control. Romania and Bulgaria joined the European Union 17 years ago and became fully fledged members of the Schengen free travel zone after the European Commission's green light in December. That's all from us for now. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to AnewZ.